Avenue, and then we'll take it higher.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional home to the Game Sports Show, Canadian franchise Boston Pizza. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, located on 601 Great Northern Road, Sault Ste. Marie. Come in and join Boston Pizza for its numerous specials that are offered. After 9 p.m. daily, come in to Boston Pizza for $9 schooners, $4 rail drinks, and delicious food. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, you're among friends.
Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Show. It's yours truly, David McCaig, and I'm here live at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, as I am always here on Thursdays, and as we are always here on the Game Sports Show. And we're here after 9 p.m., and that's when the daily specials are kicked in. That is for the $4 bar rails, the $9 schooners for the Molson Canadian and Coors Light products, and also the half price off appetizers. And boy, here on the Game Sports Show tonight, the Thursday edition, we have quite the action-packed show, as every show is usually on the Game Sports Show, but tonight in a little bit in particular, especially in regards to the NHL playoffs. But I'm going to get to the agenda in just a few moments. We're here live at Boston Pizza, as I mentioned, and it's a packed house, as it always is at Boston Pizza, of course, where you're among friends and you have great food and a great atmosphere. However, in addition to that, this is the weekend of the 3-on-3 hockey tournament locally, a great tournament that is played at all rinks all weekend. You come on out and enjoy all those games in Sault Ste. Marie, and you get the schedule at the John Rhodes Community Center, and you can talk to any of the directors of the 3-on-3 tournament, and they'll give you a schedule, and you can watch some good 3-on-3 fast-paced hockey of ages of all. And, well, 3-on-3 tournament being so popular, we get teams that come from all different sides of Canada and also through the United States, northern and southern, coming up and play in this fun tournament, as it's a great, fun family affair and also for a great cause as well. I'm going to get into who's joining me tonight, as I obviously have Justin and Brad joining me tonight, the usual two. I'm just going to get to their introduction in just a few moments. Going to get through the rest of our introduction portion of the Game Sports Show. As you all know, the Game Sports Show is aired live from 6 to 7 on Mondays at the Wicked Sister, and we are pre-recorded on air from 7 till 8, and that is also at the Wicked Sister on Mondays, so 6 to 8 at the Wicked Sister. Wednesdays, we're at Sports Center Bar and Grill from 9:30 until 11, where myself, Jamie, and Dustin are there. And sometimes we get the odd appearance from Justin Heichel and Dane Hantrell. Then obviously here Thursdays from 9:30 until 11 with myself, Brad, Justin, and Dane. And Dane, who is obviously gone for the summer, will be back in September. You can hear all previous shows of the Game Sports Show on thegamesportshow.podbean.com, or you can also access that through www.thegamesportshow.com. We got a list of our sponsors, you got links, and obviously you can get to all the older shows that we had. You can keep up with us, you can follow us to get up to date with current shows and obviously future plans for the show. And speaking of those future plans, to jump into our little announcement, our logo is going to be released this week. We plan to have it on the website by the end of this week. Our pictures will be spread out locally by the end of next week. And also, our t-shirts are going to be completed by the end of this week and ready for order for next week as well, with the proceeds of the shirt that you pay for goes towards charity. And those charities are Big Brother, Big Sister, Sault Ste. Marie, and Northern Critters in Need. And to get through the other sponsors of the show, obviously we got Boston Pizza, we got Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. As I just mentioned, the Big Brother, Big Sister, Sault Ste. Marie, and Northern Critters. The other list of additional sponsors here in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, got North Shore Sports and Auto, The Salon, the Superior Pro Shop, and Discover the Canvas. Over in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, as I mentioned, the Wicked Sister being one of the homes on the Monday night show. And over in the Sioux, Michigan as well, Pingator Cleaners being a part of the Game Sports Show. And a new sponsor that is on the show from the Canada side here, Northern Signs. And Northern Signs is where you get your apparel needs, you get your LED lights for advertising, your marketing needs, your t-shirts made, jerseys made, bars made for your jerseys, anything that you want made for Northern Signs. You definitely got to contact them, as they are an additional sponsor and an official sponsor of the Game Sports Show, and whom is actually developing the merchandise for the Game Sports Show. And we are much appreciative of Northern Signs coming on board to the Game Sports Show. Tonight's agenda. Well, obviously, you know that we're going to be talking a lot of hockey, but from start to finish, to say we obviously have our introduction portion. We're going to also be discussing the Toronto Blue Jays as they are into action tonight with their 24th game tonight against the Boston Red Sox. Already have their 24th game. We're also going to have a little NOJHL update and OHL update, which we have lots to talk about, especially with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds here, who come back tomorrow night at the SR Center for Game 5 against Kitchener. But in the third portion of the show, we're going to be talking NHL playoffs, in particular the Toronto Maple Leafs, who, well, did not make it to the second round after last night, so myself and Justin will be spearheading that, but we'll be getting into that discussion, and we'll conclude the show with our famous multiple choice segment. Well, without further ado, fellas, I'm going to bring you on in. I got Justin Heichel to my left, Brad Cochimilio to my right, the usual seating arrangement here at Boston Pizza. It's just going to be us three tonight on the show, as planned guest Brendan Brooks was unable. We were unable to get connected, as you know, he's overseas in Europe still playing hockey, and I was pretty excited for him to make the announcement that he was going to make on the show, but that's just going to have to wait for when he comes home, where he's going to do a live show here at Boston Pizza. And with John Parko and Joey Miller, they were also unavailable again this week. Hopefully we can get them on next week, and we can also hopefully have a planned guest that I have in my back pocket for next week as well. So make sure you stay tuned on my Facebook page or the website on www.thegamesportshow.com for guests next week, and also follow our Instagram page at The Game Sports Show. And fellas, without further ado, like I said, I'm going to bring you on in. Justin, how are you, my friend?
I think we all know how I am today. A little salty.
Little salty. Brad?
Hey, I'm always happy to be here. You know that.
And you're always the best looking here. With the hair.
If you're waiting for me to argue that point, don't expect it, because that ain't coming. I am in full agreement with that statement. Let's just put it that way.
I like that. You know what, fellas? Today is the kind of show where, you know, on the show we have our agendas that we follow and what we discuss, as I said at the top, what our agenda is tonight, but we don't keep the notes. We have our points that we are going to discuss, and we keep the show real here on the Game Sports Show in terms of our opinions, and we also like to get the listeners' opinions on anything. So anyone who wants to chime in or comment or even come on as a guest, you're more than welcome to reach out to us and come on the show. We'd like to have discussions, and you can reach out to myself, Brad, or Justin to reach out to discuss whatever we talk about on a weekly basis on the Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday show. Brad, you're with the Soo today, and I know you guys had the live blog for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. I know we're going to discuss that very shortly. Obviously, them going into Game 5 tomorrow night is going to be huge. Justin, I know we're definitely going to be discussing a lot of NHL playoffs, but as I said, the introduction portion here is what we're starting with, and with the Toronto Blue Jays, so we're going to jump right into that first before we go on to our next topics and all that fun stuff. The Jays, 14-9 going into tonight. They're in the top of the ninth right now, down 5-4 to the Red Sox. 18-5 Red Sox. The Jays have had a great start to their season, obviously. You know, they're kind of slipping this past few games. We had that road trip in the Bronx. The Red Sox having the best start that they've had in franchise history. But being against these teams are good, nice and early on. Get those tough games out of the way early. The Jays are doing very well as a team. I feel full of a team that is very situational-like. I like their defense. I like the way their order is in terms of not being star-studded talent. Unless you got Donaldson, obviously, in the lineup, and Tulowitzki, whom lives on the IR for the most part of the season anyhow. But the Jays' pitching has been pretty decent, unless your name's Marcus Stroman, who's been definitely struggling. But you know what? This is still early in the year, and this good start for the Jays is important. And Brad, I'm going to go to you first. Hot starts are so important. We talked about this last week, and against the Red Sox, they're getting extremely tested right now. But that hot start is going to help them down the stretch after they get through these series against the Red Sox, against the Yankees. They play Texas tomorrow, a team they are better than, in my opinion. And, you know, the Toronto Blue Jays have had some good success against Texas earlier in the year in Texas, but they've definitely had some struggles against the Yankees, and obviously so far with the Red Sox seems like they're decently matched. But the Blue Jays in general, pitching good, batting defense pretty good. Is this team still on pace to keep this up, or are we going to start seeing what the naysayers said? Or are we going to see what the positive people said?
Well, I mean, you know what? At the end of the day, we are still very early in the year. Let's get that out of the way right now. But the fact that they've gotten off to a good start is promising. I mean, that's, you know, you can't get around that. The season is such a long one that you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have points where, you know, this is a team that they're going to have points where they're going to struggle. I mean, that's, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, this is a team that, is going to have, in 162 games, it's very unrealistic and very tough to think that teams are going to go out and win 100 games. I mean, there are not many every year that win 100 games. So, at the end of the day, you want to be consistent throughout the year. They're going to have some low points this year, and I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people that are going to jump off the bandwagon for that. But I will say that, a 14-9 start is very promising for this ball club.
Very promising for sure. I think this team is kind of right on the cusp of where I expected them to be at this current point of the year, to be honest. I still feel they're a wild card team in terms of how evenly depth they are in the roster and how small ball they can play, I call it. They have the ability to play that small ball to win ball games, and that is, steal the bag if they have to, or make those single hits to get those single base hits. They don't run for the bag unless they know they're going to make that, if they're going to get the second or third. Very smart base running. Defensively, they're pretty good, with Kevin Pillar controlling that backfield and patrolling it in general in terms of making those absolutely Superman catches. And when Donaldson gets back to 100%, you got someone who's good defensively. If Stroman can get back to what he is, you got a top 5 pitching rotation, for sure top 10 in baseball. This is definitely a team that hasn't overachieved this year, in my opinion, has been right on the cusp. And I don't know if you agree with that, Justin, but they've been on that level, and I feel that this start that they've had is actually pretty positive.
I mean, to me, I really do think the Jays are kind of overachieving right now. Given the amount of injuries they have on the roster, big injuries. I mean, Tulo being in Florida still, I believe, is he not? And Donaldson's in, the land of the IR room. But even the worry in the offseason about the depth of this roster, I think most of that's been quieted right now. And the roster management has been like, they're playing well within their game. No one's trying to play outside of their abilities, and Gibby's managing the team really well. He's just, everything's working right now. I mean, with the kids, everyone was nervous. Even I was skeptical all summer, or not all summer, sorry, all off season.
Yeah.
But I mean, coming into the season right now, we're 24 games into the season, and I'm really comfortable with the team we're looking at. And we don't have those names on the roster right now. Now, when those guys come back, we're a deep team. Yeah. And I think things are looking up.
Absolutely looking up. Gibby has done a very good job. Even the bullpen is an area of the team that I had high doubts, and they've done decent. This bullpen has done very decent. Osuna Matata has done his job in the bullpen. So with having Osuna there is definitely a great closer, who is the youngest closer ever to reach 100 saves. It's impressive to what this team has definitely done, and to be in the point that they are in the season, and to be as above 500 as they are and be second in the AL East. It's still very early, but it's definitely a start that Jays fans wanted, and definitely one they should appreciate. And this is still a long year, though, to go, and they have to win these games against the Red Sox. Yankees have to show that they belong, and the Red Sox are a team that's a World Series favorite. Same with the Yankees, right? A lot of teams are very good in that AL, with the Houston Astros in there as well. So with the Toronto Blue Jays right now, I have to give them a high grade for how they've been performing throughout everybody on the roster. The only person that I really have to single out who has to smarten up is Marcus Stroman. I feel his ERA is too high. He came out this year saying how he's going to change people's minds and how his rating on MLB 18, the show, was too low and all that stuff. So I'm believing that this team can keep up and maintain what they play, because they haven't been playing like rock stars. They've been playing consistent. They've been playing that small ball, like I've said. So if the pitching can stay hot, this team can maintain this streak that they've had and stay above 500 for the year to make a strong case to make the playoffs in a wild card situation. Brad, we're going to jump into the NOJHL, I must say, right now before we jump into break. And the NOJHL crowned a champion. Concord Crunch. Double overtime. Scoring a goal in double overtime is a feeling that you can never have taken from you, especially when it's a championship clincher to go to the Dudley Hewitt Cup. And Cochrane defeated Rayside. Well, let's get real. I believe Cochrane was the underdog going into this series, and you didn't expect maybe Cochrane to even come out of that division because you had Powassan in there, right? So just to go around the NOJHL update in that finals, Brad, what can you give us for a little update? And how excited is Cochrane right now that they've won that championship? And how excited is Leonard winning that championship? Much deserved championship for Leonard. Congratulations to him. But Brad, just get your insight on that final game of the championship round.
Yeah, I mean, talk about exciting, right? I mean, like you said, there's just something about scoring an overtime winner, or the equivalent of a walk-off home run in the World Series. Like, let's face it, there's nothing more exciting than something like that. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's a credit to the Cochrane organization. I mean, they're a team that's well run. I mean, Ryan Leonard does an amazing job. Chad Vresk and Brad Boyer scouting for them. They've done a great job with that program, and it's a testament to the job that organization has done. And I mean, to come out, like you said, to come out of a division where they weren't expected to win, and then to come out and win a championship series that they weren't expected to win. Credit to them for going out and beating Rayside, and basically. They've earned it. They've earned that spot in the Dudley. I mean, it's, absolutely amazing that they managed to get through. And, this is a team that's on an absolute high right now. And you know what? I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they ride this through to a good performance at the Dudley Hewitt as well.
Absolutely. And definitely, like you said, congratulations to Leonard and the whole staff of Cochrane. And definitely a hard-working team that deserved to come on top. And the better team that came out in that series, not necessarily the better team on paper, but definitely the better team that came out, and most prepared team rather, was definitely the team that won that series, and Cochrane Crunch winning in double overtime. And I'm just going to give a quick little point out that the tragedy that we've had in the sports for the last few weeks with the Humboldt Broncos and the junior hockey players that are part of this Cochrane program, these are the friends and family that you'll never lose. Winning that championship is something that you certainly enjoy, and the friends that you have made, and the tragedy that we've had faced in the hockey world in the past few weeks has brought in a lot of junior teams together in the very good way, and it makes you appreciate. So definitely appreciate these times, and that's my fatherly message to the players on the Cochrane Crunch, as we got a fan in the background of the Las Vegas Golden Knights who's excited for their game. But back to what I was saying with the Cochrane Crunch, definitely something you have to enjoy and treasure, and congratulations to them winning the NOJHL championship, and good luck in the Dudley Hewitts, and hopefully to the RBC if they are to come out of the Dudley Hewitts. Fellas, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to enjoy these Molson products. When we come back, we're going to be talking Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds for the duration of the second part of the show, and we got lots to talk about when it comes to Soo Greyhounds. They have a tough series right now against Kitchener, and I feel there's a lot of fans that thought that maybe they come back on Friday and be up 3-1 in the series. They got another thing coming. Those Hounds, if they feel that they're just going to breeze through the Kitchener Ranger, it feels like, and we're definitely get Brad's insight on the internal part of there, a lot of the players' comments, how the feelings have been ever since Game 4, and then obviously myself and Justin giving points onto Brad's points. So you don't want to miss the Greyhound updates. And later on the show, we're going to be talking NHL playoffs, in particular those Toronto Maple Leafs. So we'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional home to the Game Sports Show, Canadian franchise Boston Pizza. Boston Pizza Sault Ste. Marie, located on 601 Great Northern Road, Sault Ste. Marie. Come in and join Boston Pizza for its numerous specials that are offered. After 9 p.m. daily, come in to Boston Pizza for $9 schooners, $4 rail drinks, and delicious food. Boston Pizza Sault Ste. Marie, you're among friends.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank a list of additional sponsors. North Shore Sports and Auto, new location located on 647 McDonald Avenue, Sault Ste. Marie. A family-owned and operated business with doing business in Sault Ste. Marie for over 10 years. Loads of products available for your enjoyment for all seasons. North Shore Sports and Auto, we understand the importance of quality service and products, and we work hard to ensure that all customers have a positive experience before and after each and every sale. North Shore Sports and Auto, meeting all of your new and pre-owned equipment needs. Special thanks to Salon. The Salon, located on 589 2nd Line East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Mike Cuglietta. Book your appointment today at 705-941-9191 or via online at https://thesalonsoo.as.me-. The Salon, making the Soo beautiful, one haircut at a time. As well as a shout out to the Superior Pro Shop. The Superior Pro Shop, located inside the Community First Credit Union Superior Arena on 285 Northern Avenue East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Jeremy Paquin and ran by Larry Monroe. Superior Pro Shop for over 40 years meet all of your skate sharpening, skate repair, and hockey needs. Also to Discover the Canvas. Discover the Canvas, located on 317 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. A beautiful, new renovated building owned and operated by expert artist and Sioux native Katrina Thibodeau. Katrina taking her talents of the ink in Sault Ste. Marie and truly creating the best and most realistic art locally. Call Katrina today at 705-450-8099 or email her at discoverthecanvas@gmail.com to book your tattoo or consultation today.
Hi, this is Joe Bowen, and you're listening to the Game Sports Show from Sault Ste. Marie.
Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. It's yours truly, David McKeag, alongside Justin Heichel and Brad Kochmilio. And we're here live at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, as we are here every Thursday for the Thursday night edition of the Game Sports Show. And we're here after 9 p.m. for their daily specials. Daily specials being the $4 bar rails, the $9 schooners, and the half price off appetizers, and obviously being a part of the great atmosphere here at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie. And Justin, I think you'll agree, lively atmosphere here at Boston Pizza tonight.
Good night here tonight. It looks like there's a lot of 3-on-3 teams in here. People are enjoying one. We got the Vegas game on. We got the NFL draft on. We got the Jays on. Crazy sports night here.
It has, and last night was definitely a big Toronto sports night, but we're going to get to the Toronto Maple Leaf portion on the next segment.
It was a Toronto sports night.
Brad, you know, we love our time here on Thursdays at Boston Pizza, and how about the service we get here from the bringer of beer, Mitch Wilson, Aaron Grisdak, and from Lauren and from Ashley.
Off tonight.
Yeah, he did.
Beer.
He's actually at the bar right now enjoying himself.
So he's the receiver of beer tonight.
I like that. The receiver of beer tonight. But fellas, we're going to jump in right now to the OHL playoffs, and we're going to start with something right out of the gate with announcing who's the winner of the other series right now before going to the local Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds scenes, and that is the Hamilton Bulldogs have defeated the Kingston Frontenacs by a score of 2-1. Kingston started the game 1-0, then Hamilton scoring 1 in the second and 1 in the third to defeat Kingston 2-1 in Game 5 in Hamilton. So Hamilton is going on to the OHL Championship, and they await the winner of the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds Kitchener Rangers series. So congratulations to the Hamilton Bulldogs. They're going to be awaiting their tough challenger, whoever it is between the Hounds or Kitchener. But now that Hamilton's waiting, they get to rest. They get to watch a lot of tape between these two teams, Kitchener and the Hounds. Two teams literally beat the crap out of each other for the next 2, maybe 3 games. Obviously, as I mentioned, Game 5 being at the SR Center tomorrow, Friday, that's 7:07. Game 6 would come on Sunday at 2 p.m., and that would be back in Kitchener. And then if there is a Game 7, Game 7 would be here at the SR Center on Monday at 7 o'clock. And Brad, we know who's coming out of the other side. Now we await who comes out of this, and obviously them being one of the local teams, the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, and they've had a tough series so far against Kitchener, and the Hounds have not been able to get it done on the road in this series especially. No road team has won a game yet. And Mario Kalina in net for Kitchener has done absolutely fantastic. The Hounds in general, they're coming home tied 2-2. What's your take on the series so far?
Yeah, it's been, you know what? It's been a little weird for how good this Greyhound team's been on the road the last 2 years. Round 2 against Owen Sound, and then now in round 3 against Kitchener. It's been a little weird to watch and see this team struggle on the road. They got blown out in Game 6 in Owen Sound 7-1. They got off to a terrible start in Game 4 in Kitchener, and that was the difference in the hockey game. I mean, whether it was Drew Bannister or the players, they all admitted that first period was the difference. You're down 4-0, you got outshot, I think it was 16-6. But the last 2 periods of that hockey game, if you could knock off the first 20 minutes, the last 2 periods of that hockey game, they were the better team. It was a close game, but they were probably the better team. But it shows you at this point in the playoffs how big a 60-minute effort is. For that team, they give up 2 goals in 38 seconds, give up 4 goals in the first period. I can't remember the last time I watched the Greyhounds give up 4. This is a team that never gives up 4 goals in a period. This is a team that hasn't given up 4 goals in a game very often this year. So, it was tough to watch. That Game 3, as much as they didn't play well, as much as they didn't play well in Game 3, that was a game that they were still in, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this team rebounds. This team's never lost 3 in a row all year, so I have a hard time seeing them lose 3 in a row in the playoffs. But I mean, this is a Kitchener team with a lot of confidence at this point, and the Greyhounds are getting a little bit of their mojo back after the last 40 minutes of last night's game. So it's going to be interesting to see how Game 5 plays out.
Absolutely, Game 5 being a very pivotal point in the series, Justin. We say it because that's the game that gets you either, let's say, a victory in a series if you're up 3-1. Okay, now, or in this case, when it's 2-2 and you go up 3-2 and you go back to Kitchener and you have 2 chances to eliminate the opposing team. And the Hounds right now are coming home where they've been successful throughout the OHL playoffs for the most part. So the Hounds coming home, winning on home ice and winning the pivotal Game 5, how important is that? And it goes without saying, obviously.
I mean, obviously they have to. Like, there's not, if they're going to win this series, they have to win this one at home. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That being said, I really do think the atmosphere in the arena in Kitchener was a difference maker so far. I mean, the energy in that building, just watching it on TV, it was crazy in there.
Much better, much bigger arena as well than compared to the SR, to be honest. So it fits a lot more bodies in there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you're going to get it. Obviously, it's going to be louder in there just because you fit a sheer volume of more people in there. But that crowd really just seems to be into the team. Like, anytime the goalie was Kalina's goalie there, right? That's okay. I'm not mixing that up with anything else. It's been a long day. But anytime he does something crazy, they play Super Mario sounds over the speakers. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, we need to be just as crazy and just as creative here. Getting Kingston or getting our Kitchener's head. Sorry, and just let our boys play. But like you said earlier, it's a full 60-minute effort that's going to win games in this series. It's not a 40-minute effort. It's not, play 2 periods and hope for the best. It's not get a lead and get comfortable. And to kind of go back to the John Cherry segment from a few weeks ago, like I said to Brad earlier, and this is across the board in any league, you have to have that killer mentality. You have to put teams away. Like, do you think Boston just let off the gas last night? No. They came out, they put their foot through the Leafs' throat, and they called it a game. And that's what the Greyhounds need to do in this next game. They need to take away Kitchener's will, and they go back to Kitchener, and maybe they win there. And by maybe, I mean you should probably win there.
They say to win a series, you have to be able to win on the road, and the Hounds in this pivotal Game 5 situation are feeling the heat right now against a talented Kitchener team, though, Brad. This is not a team that does not deserve to get to the finals, but and more than the Hounds do. So the Hounds, you being on the inside of everything, what is the atmosphere and the morale in the room right now on the team? Is it still status quo positivity, or are they changing things at practice? Are they altering lines? Are they touching anything? Or is it just keep plugging away, keep believing in what the process has been so far this year?
Yeah, and I mean, we saw some line juggling in Game 4. And part of it was, part of the issue there is having Hayden Verbeek out of the lineup. I mean, there's no kids in that league that work harder than Hayden Verbeek does. I mean, the kid's just an absolute, machine when it comes to, effort. So, he's going to be out for the series. That's obviously a huge hole. So, they did juggle lines a bit, and I think part of that was just to try to get things going. I would expect Drew Bannister to go back to his kind of normal line chart for Game 5. This is a team that's always confident. I mean, even in the Owen Sound series, they were down 2-1, and they were got blown out in Game 6 going into a Game 7 at home. This is a team that's very confident. They're a team that it takes a lot for it to knock their confidence down. I don't think losing 2 in a row in Kitchener to, like you said, a very talented Kitchener hockey club, I don't think that's enough to knock down the confidence of this hockey club. And I would expect a better effort out of a lot of guys in Game 5. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see the Greyhounds' best effort of the series in Game 5.
You know what? I like pointing at different avenues and point out obvious points as well. But I feel that Villalta has to out goaltend Mario. And I feel Mario has been up to the task. Not saying Villalta hasn't or anything, but he hasn't been as good as Mario has, in my opinion. I feel that that's a big part the Hounds are going to depend on is Villalta making those big saves and instilling that confidence for the team that, you know, that he's going to make that big save. Where Mario has that trust with the Kitchener Rangers team. Not saying the Hounds don't have that trust either. So the thing is, Kalina has out-dueled Villalta, in my opinion, this series. Has been the more standout goaltender as well.
Yeah, I mean, Mario Kalina has been solid. I mean, he's been the guy who's just had to make the next save. And he's done that so far. I mean, he didn't, in Game 3, he didn't need to be really overly good, but he was good enough. Again, Game 4, he struggled in the final 40 minutes, but he was still good enough. And you know what? When you've got a talented team, and, no knock against Matthew Villalta, who's had a great year, but, I mean, they need him to be, there are almost points where, and I liken it to Grant Fuhr of the 1980s Edmonton Oilers. You don't need him to be amazing. You just need him to make the next save. And that was Grant Fuhr's bread and butter in the 80s. It didn't matter if his goals against average was 6, as long as it wasn't 7, because the Edmonton Oilers were scoring 7 goals a night. They need Matthew Villalta to be a solid goaltender. They don't need him to be amazing. And yeah, he struggled in the games down in Kitchener, and not that he was awful, and he was good in Game 3 there, and that that's a game where he ends up with 37 saves and he was solid. I think Game 4 was an aberration for him. I think we're going to see a great effort out of him in Game 5 tomorrow night.
I think so, and they come back home, as we mentioned, tomorrow night, Friday, at the SR Center, Sault Ste. Marie, with puck drop being at 7:07, and Verbeek being out will definitely test the depth of the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, so very excited to see what Game 5 brings for the Sault Greyhounds in Game 5 in the Kitchener Hounds series, as the Hamilton Bulldogs await the winner of this series in the OHL Finals. But fellas, we're going to take a quick break. Justin, Brad, when we come back, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes in terms of talking about the NHL playoffs, in particular those Toronto Maple Leafs, as we got lots to talk about there. And we're going to have our multiple choice segment, as each of us have a question that we're going to bring and that we're going to answer. So we're going to take a break. We're going to hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to be talking all that fun stuff. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Game Sports Show live at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional home to the Game Sports Show, Canadian franchise Boston Pizza. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, located on 601 Great Northern Road, Sault Ste. Marie. Come in and join Boston Pizza for its numerous specials that are offered. After 9 p.m. daily, come in to Boston Pizza for $9 schooners, $4 rail drinks, and delicious food. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, you're among friends.
Get Wicked Catering from the crew at the Wicked Sister.
We like to think of ourselves as foodies. While our favorite foods are paired with a beer tasting at the Wicked Sister, you can now have the same creative menu for your next catered business luncheon, family get-together, wedding, or holiday party. Our white truffle risotto appeals to your gluten-free and vegetarian guests. Add sautéed shrimp or freshly grilled chicken for a pop of protein. Or let us build you a custom menu to suit your needs. From plated events of 15 to buffets for 200, the Wicked Sister will cater your event with tapas, snacks, cravables, or a full sit-down dinner.
The Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and additional home to the Game Sports Show, Sports Center Bar and Grill. Sports Center Bar and Grill, located on 624 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Sports Center rated top sports bar for the second year in a row. At Sports Center, enjoy their famous 75-cent wing night along with delicious Molson products on tap, along with a great atmosphere and other great food options available as well. Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Sioux's best sports bar. Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. It's yours truly, as it's been for the night, David McKeag, alongside Justin Heichel and Brad Cochmelio here live at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie. And it is still quite the lively atmosphere here at Boston Pizza. We're here after 9 p.m. for their daily specials. You got their $4 bar rails, you got their $9 schooners, and you have the half-price of appetizers. Just the great food in general. All the pizzas you can build here, pizza options, and the Molson products. Oh my God, great time. And the great sports that are on TV. You know, the Blue Jays game that just concluded with the Blue Jays on the losing end of that. And then obviously having the Washington Capitals and Pittsburgh Penguins game, where the Pittsburgh Penguins were victorious in that one. And you also have the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the San Jose Sharks currently live on the TV. And, oh, doggy, The Las Vegas Golden Knights currently up 4-0 in the game while we speak here, live at the TD Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And let me tell you right now, Brad, Las Vegas Golden Knights are looking pretty impressive in these playoffs after clean sweeping the Los Angeles Kings and now going against the other California team, the San Jose Sharks, whom took care of the Anaheim Ducks in the first round. And I felt the Sharks took care of the Ducks fairly easily in that first round, but it looks like Vegas has come out guns a-blazing and ready tonight in game one of the second round. And Brad, what can you say so far of Las Vegas' performance tonight here?
Hey, I'll give them credit where credit is due. I didn't anticipate them being up 4-0 at any point in this hockey game, let alone this early in the hockey game. So, hey, you know what? Credit to them for going out and getting the job done early. And, I'm still interested to see how this playoff run plays out for them.
Absolutely. We'll get more to Vegas, I know, with you a little bit later on, especially with our multiple choice segment. And Justin, Vegas, the game is still going on. This is the first period still. So there's still 2 periods to play, and San Jose is not a team that lets down easy and lets up easy or whatever the term you want to use there. So the San Jose Sharks are not out of this hockey game yet still, but Las Vegas is definitely showing that they are rested and they are hungry. And how impressive has the Las Vegas Golden Knights have been to this point so far?
I mean, so far in the playoffs, no one can play with them. Not one. I mean, they only played LA and period against San Jose so far. But I mean, these California teams that usually plague, the Eastern Conference, Vegas is just rolling through them like mincemeat out of these teams. These games are so fun to watch because the hockey is going at such a. I haven't seen a game go this fast in ages. It's really fun to watch, and to be totally honest, maybe I'm kind of buying into this Vegas thing. It's just really a fun story to be, a part of. Maybe is that a thing? I don't want to be a part of it. No. I'll just be I don't know, supporter from the sidelines. Is that a?
Yeah. I like that, and like I said, we'll get more to the Las Vegas Golden Knights a little bit later in the segment, the multiple choice segment. But the NHL playoffs in general, you have, again, the Washington Capitals playing the Pittsburgh Penguins, and a team that Pittsburgh going up 1-0 in game one after tonight. And I know a lot of the listeners are going to hear this show on Friday, so many of these game one games are going to be done. You're going to be looking forward to the other game one starting on Friday. However, seeing this live right now with the Pittsburgh Penguins, it still seems like they're the dominant team over the Washington Capitals. I know it wasn't a lopsided win by any means tonight, but Matt Murray was on his game, obviously, and the Pittsburgh Penguins still looking like the experienced team and being 9-1 all time against the Washington Capitals and the playoffs, and it's looking like that the Pittsburgh Penguins are showing why this team is going to make a run to maybe do a three-peat this year and try to make another Stanley Cup appearance, let alone a Stanley Cup victory. So in terms of the Washington Capitals, what do they have to do to defeat the Pittsburgh Penguins? And I'm going to go to you first, Brad.
There's a lot of things they're going to need to do. I mean, let's be honest here, right? This is a team that's lost to Pittsburgh in the second round 4 times. I believe it is at this point. I mean, this is they have to get over the hurdle at some point, right? But I mean, they're going to need quality goaltending. Obviously, is the biggest thing. And it's just going to come down to just at the end of the day, just buckling down, right? Like at some point, this team just needs to get that monkey off their back and. For whatever reason, playoff hockey's a funny thing. For whatever reason, this is a team that struggles in round 2. I think obviously a good start in game 1 is going to be massive for them. You get off to a good start in game 1, and you're putting yourself in a position where your confidence is coming back. If they get off to a slow start, if they struggle in game 1, honestly, I like that. That's a series that. If you struggle that early, it plays with your psyche a lot. They're going to need to, obviously come out with a real good start going forward. You're in a position where, thankfully, game 1, as big as it is, game 1, you've still got time to rebound. This is a team that's obviously going to need to come out with a huge effort. I think the first 10 minutes in game 2 are going to be really important. Yeah. If you see them come out with a good effort in the first 10 minutes, they'll be in good shape.
Absolutely. You know what? And Ovechkin being the absolute machine that he is doesn't want to lose this more than anybody in this world. But, Pittsburgh has that team that's well built, and a big trade with Derek Brassard coming over there from the deadline gets that third line depth that they wanted. And Pittsburgh is a team that is well built, and with the Washington Capitals, they need to come up with a different game plan. But the big thing with the Capitals, Justin, I think, is going to be their goaltending. Holtby needs to be the Holtby that was there a couple years back, was a Vezina candidate. They can't have a goaltender who is not going to be able to stop the puck, or not someone that they can not rely on in the back end there. And the Washington Capitals are a team that is built for a Stanley Cup run. They still are. Last year I felt was the year that was their time in terms of the trades that they made last year. But, in the playoffs, like Brad said, it's a different cookie. And the Pittsburgh Penguins have been there before. A lot of these guys, there are a lot of players there that were part of that back-to-back Stanley Cup wins and going for this three-peat right now. And for Washington to be successful, it's the goaltending.
Oh, no, definitely. It's going to start in the back end for Washington, whether it's Grubauer or whether it's Holtby. Personally, I think in the last series, Holtby kind of got a bit of a raw deal. Yes, he didn't have a spectacular back end of the season, but he's Braden Holtby. This guy was penciled in to be a Team Canada goalie this year if we had NHL players going. You got to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. Your team went most of the season playing in front of Braden Holtby. You'd like to, think that they'd lay it on the line a little more to help their goalie get back into it. And they did in the back end of that Columbus series, as far as I'm concerned. And they did for the first 15 minutes tonight. And then Pittsburgh just kind of took over. But to get back in this series, you're going to need Holtby to play. And I really do think you need Ovechkin to play a standout series. Like, if he's going to win the cup and finally beat Crosby, he's got to earn it. I don't really think that one team is substantially better than the other. I think on paper there's shortcomings on both teams that might not match up well against each other. But as far as if you were throwing it at NHL and looking at your offense and defense and goalie stats, I think you're pretty evenly matched.
The teams indeed are evenly matched. It's going to be a very exciting game two, and I'm expecting a different Washington team from game two with a little bit of a change in the system maybe, as they are deemed not to go down 2-0 in the series going back to Pittsburgh. That would be a recipe for disaster for Washington, as they hope to come out on top on game two, but we'll see what happens in game two. And with Washington going down 2-0 to Columbus, I feel that was a good tester for them going forward, as they did lose their first two games last series. They want to avoid that against a very talented Pittsburgh team. But this is kind of a different team I see with Washington, as I feel that up front and on the back end, they have that experience losing. Just the goaltending is definitely a big question mark. And that big, tough series against Columbus, even though it did only go 6 games opposed to 7, the Washington Capitals were put up against the ropes, being down that 2-0, and they came out on top. And speaking of teams that came out on top in the series, the team that they're playing right now, Pittsburgh, came out on top against Philadelphia. Philadelphia team that worked extremely hard in that series and I felt was hard fought. Obviously, they were under the radar going into that series, but it was a good experience gainer for the Philadelphia Flyers, and they should take that and keep their head up high as they battled to get into the playoffs this year. Other series, you got Tampa that's moving on, and they're going to be paying the Boston Bruins, as the Boston Bruins will be paying a visit to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that would be game 1 Saturday night, and that will be at 3 p.m. So with the Boston Bruins beating the Toronto Maple Leafs last night, and we're going to get to the Toronto Maple Leafs Bruins game in just a few moments here, but you have the Winnipeg Jets and the Nashville Predators playing tomorrow, Friday at 8 o'clock. And you got these final 4 teams, or 4 series, so the final 8 teams. You have the Winnipeg Jets, the Predators, is going to be the most exciting series, I think, in this whole entire playoffs, next to what Toronto and Boston provided. You got Pittsburgh, Washington, obviously already started this series, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Sharks, whom are starting as we currently speak, being up 4-0, and just a conclusion in the first period. And the Bruins and Lightning, the 2 teams that a lot of experts thought were going to come out and be in the second round. The NHL playoffs being in full flight, a lot of capable teams that are still left to, let's say, have a chance to win the Stanley Cup, and all of them equal to have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. Very excited to see what the second round brings going forward. But the Winnipeg Jets and Nashville Predators I want to get to before we jump into the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins kind of discussion there, that game, and just the Leafs in general, Justin. The Jets and Predators. The Predators won the season series this year. That didn't matter. The Bruins lost the season series to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they came out and beat them in a 7-game series. Playoffs are a different cookie. The Jets are a team that I feel are excited. They're full of momentum. They're full of piss and vinegar right now, as my old man would like to say. And the Nashville Predators, fresh out of losing the Stanley Cup last year to the Pittsburgh Penguins, they want to make that run. These are two hungry teams, two goaltenders that are playing out of this world. Rene, who's been there before, Hellebuck, who is new to this elite level, who's in a Vezina final conversation right now, that has a chance to win the Vezina this year. What are you going to take from the second round matchup between the Jets and the Predators?
I mean, to me, this is like billed as the immovable object versus the unstoppable force. Like, that's the way I'm looking at this, like the Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior kind of matchup. If this goes to 7 games, whatever team wins this, I really do think is going to have trouble moving on. And not because they're not skilled enough, they're not qualified, you know what I mean? They're just going to be beat to crap. Like, the Jets are an abusive team. Like, that's, like, I think that's the word to sum them up. Like, Dustin Byfuglien's just cruising around back there. He's like the West Coast Zdeno Chara. He's just meaner and heavier. Should we do an over/under on penalty minutes for this series? Like, is that?
It'd be a pretty high number. It might still take.
Is that like a good trivia question? Like,
no, you know what? To ask, I think it's going to be over the average minutes.
what are we saying? Like, for, let's say, over/under 85 penalty minutes the entire series.
Over.
That's
80. Just jump into that. Over 85 minutes, Brad. Definitely in this series.
I don't even have to think about that. That's
Might be the first game.
Yes, in the over.
Absolutely. You're going to have the Winnipeg Jets, who love that aggressive side. And you know what? Maurice has a much strong individuals to put on that ice. I feel that the Winnipeg Jets do have a stronger team, in my opinion, stronger to handle that aggressiveness. That's why I think if the Jets can get past the Nashville Predators, they won't be as beat up as if the Nashville Predators, if they got past the Jets. That would be my kind of with that. But this is going to be the most exciting series in the National Hockey League playoffs, much next to the Boston-Toronto series. Like I said, we're going to get to in just a few moments. But the Jets have to win on the road here. They need to at least split, I feel, at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. I feel like they have to split at least going back home to the whiteout in Winnipeg. I feel like that is a tough barn to win. It's the top 3 in the National Hockey League that the Jets were successful at home this year. They can go back home being tied 1-1. They have a high chance of going up 3-1 in the series by the time they're completed at home. And Brad, I get your comments with the Jets and Predators here. How excited are you? And our friend and listener of the show, Paul Maurice, I know he won't show that excitingness in the interviews, but this is going to be one hell of a series.
I can't wait. I flat out can't wait for this series. Like, this might very well be my favorite series of the playoffs, and I feel like it might not even be close. Like, I can't wait for it to get started. It's going to be so much fun to watch, and I mean, it's going to have everything that you want in a playoff hockey series. Like, let's be honest. I mean, it's going to be physical. It's going to be, there's so much skill on those two hockey clubs. It's going to be so much fun to watch. It's going to be really exciting.
Absolutely. You know what the keys for the Jets to win are? Shutting down Nashville's blue line from being on the score sheet often. They get a part of the rush. For Nashville to win this series, it's getting Connor Hellebuck off his game, because I'm going to be honest with you, the Jets are deep up front. They're deep on that back end. I feel like if they get a shaky Connor Hellebuck, that's what's going to be the destruction to the Jets. And Connor Hellebuck taking a puck to the collarbone, he is okay, and he will be ready to go in Game 1, as I'm being told. Justin, final thoughts?
I really don't even know getting to Connor Hellebuck's going to have an issue in this series. Like, the Jets have been in pretty well every 6-goal game that they've been a part of, so yeah, you want to score? We'll score with you. And then we're just going to rub your face into the boards as well, like, for a couple strides, if you don't mind.
It's hard, us being Leaf fans, so it's hard to say that, to cheer for another team. But it's kind of hard not to look down that and a friend of ours, Paul Maurice, and see the Jets and how great this organization turned around and how great they're doing, and the whiteout in Winnipeg. It would just be great to see them. And let's not forget, they're Canada's only team left, as the other team didn't make it on after last night, as they came out flat-footed in that third period, like I said, in a few moments we're going to get to. But the Winnipeg Jets are going to definitely make this one of the most exciting series, along with Nashville. Is going to make it very exciting. Two great hockey clubs going at it. Too bad it's in the second round and not the third round. That's all I'm going to say. I do not like that playoff format that much, but I get the rivalry that they're making, and this is going to be a wild series for sure. Yeah, exactly. You got to win at some point, right? So, fellas,
just win, baby.
I like that. Just win, baby, for sure. I think that's what I would do with my playoff shirts, fellas team. Just win, baby. Just win. The Bruins and Leafs. We're going to talk about that series just a tad, because I know we're going to be branching off to more of the Leaf points and the Leafs whatnot. So, Game 7, just to get everyone's quick insight on that Game 7 before we jump into the Leafs. Finger pointing, discussion, and brake pedal to everybody. Brad, I'll go to you first. I'm going to save Justin for second on the comments here.
Non-Leaf fans.
Yeah, yes. Game 7, what'd you think of it?
Hey, you know what? I mean, for a Game 7, let's be honest. I mean, you had lead changes. It was exciting. Like, it was, it had a lot of what you want in a Game 7. I mean, if you're the Leafs, it sucks to lose that way. Like, let's be honest. I mean, I think, as a Red Wing fan, I know if the Wings were in that position and blew a game like that, hey, I'd feel the same way, 100%.
They were. 93.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with the Bruins, though, Brad, they were the team that maybe truly has shown how they're more playoff built than Toronto is.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Oh, 100%. And I mean, I said it to Justin before we went on. You could tell in the first 90 seconds of the third period that Boston had just taken over that game. They basically came out in the third period and said, screw you, we're taking over. We're not giving you a shot to win this game. And like the first 90 seconds, it felt like Boston was the only team on the ice. It really did. And I mean, that was one of those things where I'm watching that first minute and a half, and I was sitting at our office. I finished writing up the Greyhound game, and I'm watching that, and I'm like, even before Boston had scored there, I'm like, Boston's going to score soon, and they're going to win this hockey game. It had that vibe. And I mean, that, like you said, that tells you how playoff ready Boston is compared to Toronto. And you know what? It's probably, like, things like this, as painful as it is, probably are good for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, it's the old adage. I mean, we talk about the Red Wings. It's the old adage, you got to lose to learn how to win. Let's face it, how many times did the Detroit Red Wings, the 95 Cup final, when everyone expected them to walk over the New Jersey Devils, and the New Jersey Devils just shut right down and said, no thanks. You think that didn't play a role in the Wings winning back-to-back cups? 100% that did. And for me, this Leaf team having success in the playoffs down the road, you're going to look back on series like this, like the previous Game 7 loss,
And
Washington last year. You're going to look at series like that, and all of a sudden, you're going to see the Leafs start winning those series and winning those games. I truly, and this is coming from a guy who's a Wings fan who, I've grown up despising the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I look at those, and I remember all the points as a Wings fan where I'm like, man, the Wings went through stuff like that. The Wings went through those points, and they ended up winning Stanley Cups because of it. It's going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference down the road.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I heard a good quote from a friend of mine, Justin, before I go to you for the comments of the game before we dissect our Leafs, because I know we have maybe some differences of opinions on the Leaf roster. But anyways, the point is here, the quote that I heard, it's a road to success, and it much echoes basically exactly what Brad said. You have to fail. You have to fail. You have to fail. You have to fail before succeeding. And I said different fails in there. It's like a tree. It's a branch. You have to have those failures to succeed. The Leafs last year, even though how great the season was, they are far ahead in the Shanna plan, that we like to call it. Losing to Washington last year was expected. They failed. They called it a failure. You lost, even though it was a good season. You didn't win the cup, so they consider that a failure. This year, They went in to Game 7 against Boston, already being down 3-1. They failed. They didn't win the series. But that's a learning curve for a lot of those Leaf players. Next year, improve. Make the steps forward. They made it to 6 games last year. They made it to 7 this year. Next year, you get into that second round. You're trying to get to that third round next year, actually. Then the year after, you're thinking Stanley Cup. The Stanley plan is already 1 to 2 years ahead of the process, so that's what people have to see here, but you have to fail to bring forth success. So, Justin, let me get to you just quickly about the game, and then I'm going to branch us off into the Leafs points, as I know we have lots to discuss when it comes to the Leafs.
I mean, last night sucked. There's no real ifs, ands, or buts about that. The first period was great. I thought that was really entertaining hockey. The second period, I started to have the stand up in my living room and the pucker effect going on, as it's so called. So the nervousness started to come through, and then that goal went in with, 30 seconds, about 30 seconds left in the second. Things started to get a little messy for me there. And then, the third period, I honestly think Shanahan probably had flashbacks to playing the Devils in the 90s. Watching that on the ice. I have never been so frustrated watching a game because they just couldn't do it. I don't know. I mean, is it a failure? I don't really want to say it's a failure. I want to say it's a stepping stone. I mean, we made it one game further than we did last year, so it's a thing. And to be completely honest, a week ago, we were all sitting here kind of thinking we didn't really have much business being involved in this series because we got routed, bad. So, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Good luck to Boston moving forward, I guess. That's the sportsmanlike thing to say, and hopefully Brad Marchand can stop kissing other players. That's all.
Licking other players.
I like that. Yeah, to throw that little thing out there. Now, Justin, we know that the Leafs have lost. Now you're thinking of fast forward in here. You're thinking the offseason now. You're thinking towards the NHL entry draft. You think of free agency season, contract season, and all that stuff. So the media's today, the articles that I read about 31 thoughts when it came to Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick, what they think the Leafs are going to do next year, or about Austin Matthews not being existent in this first round. And that's going to be one of my points I'm going to get to in a few moments as well. There's a lot of things now that we're discussing in the Toronto media, and the loss is still fresh to me. I can't even look at an article thinking of next year, alone still think of last night's 90-second start to the third period. So at the end of the day, the Leafs showed last night that they can contend with Boston. These are two evenly matched teams, in my opinion, in terms of offense and goaltending. The weakness is defense. Boston has, I feel, more experience, more smart defensemen that are able to stand up in these big games and handle that pressure, where the Leafs defense obviously couldn't, and two names in particular, Jake Gardiner and Nikita Zaitsev, whom had very bad games yesterday. And Nikita Zaitsev is definitely having a season that he's got to forget ASAP because of that big price tag we've paid him for the next 6 years of $4.5 million. So the game in general, the Leafs got to Game 7. They were down 3-1 against this very high-powered Bruins team that's one of the best teams in the NHL in the second half of the year, if not the best team in the National Hockey League in the second half. They're a team that is well depth-wise in terms of forwards, defense, and even in net. If Rask went down, Hudobin's not a bad backup. The Leafs are built the same way. They have that offense. Just if some D go out, you're picking at the ground for some D that you're going to call up, or you don't know who to trust back there. And in net, you have Anderson and McElhinney. McElhinney, who's a stud back there this year as a backup. So all in all, an evenly matched team, but the true team that was supposed to win this series did. Let's get real. The Boston Bruins are a team that are a better team in terms of defensive, and that's what wins you rounds and wins you series in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I feel the better team this series, I can't pick one. I really can't. I think the Leafs and Bruins had a lot of good games that they won. Each game that they won, they played hard and won for. Just the team that came out for the full 60 minutes yesterday is the team that was meant to win the series. And Boston came out and played 60 minutes, even though that first period there was a lot of back and forth scoring hockey. And Rask wasn't the best player on the ice either in those first 2 periods. And Anderson letting in a couple goals. You know what? It's end of the day, Boston found a way to win. And that is what put them over the top over from Toronto yesterday, because they played the full 60 minutes where Toronto only played 40 minutes. I guess you can say, I know there's a lot of ugly goals, but at the end of the day, both teams are coming out hot and coming out hard. But the team that played the full game won. So, Justin, I'll get your last thoughts now on the game, and then we're going to jump into the players, Brad, of the game. Okay, I know we got a lot of points when it comes to players.
So, I mean, just one last thing on the Leafs-Bruins series in total. One of the things I saw last night, and maybe some people will agree with me, maybe some people will disagree with me, but I saw some players on the Leafs roster playing with that desperation that you need in the playoffs. And by some players, I mean number 12. I saw some players, and by some, I mean one, playing with desperation that you need to win in the playoffs versus a full Boston Bruins team of adult men that have been there. But there's enough of a balance on the Bruins team between those older age players and those younger guys where maybe that will to win reflected a little more on them and those players bought in. I just honestly think the Leafs didn't have enough veteran leadership to help them grind through that. I think you hit a point where you had a group of 20-year-olds, for the most part, which 5 of them are between 20 and 21. So we have a potential of, I think, 4 players that could have played overage in the OHL this year that just finished up against the Bruins and Zdeno Chara yesterday before people start critiquing these guys too bad. And I'm not one to defend and jump, as a shield in front of these guys. But so to your point, yeah, maybe the better team, the team that was supposed to win did win. But these kids need that salt in the wound to grow. Yeah. I mean, Kadri played for the Knights. Whenever the London Knights ever had it hard. Mitch Marner played for the London Knights. When did the London Knights ever have it hard?
Not until they left.
William Nylander came from the Swedish Elite League. So he probably rolled through that. Shame on me for not having the background stats on that, but he probably rolled through that league pretty quickly. And we all know the Austin Matthews story. So there hasn't been, for these core players, there hasn't been a lot of adversity. And so they're just getting it now. And everyone's like, well, Austin Matthews, year 2 in the league. Yeah, Austin Matthews can't drink in the States. So let's factor some things in before everyone gets cracking on him like he's Sidney Crosby. There's
a lot of good points, Justin, for sure. And Brad, I'm going to go to you first after some of these points. We got lots of points around with the Leafs, and we know we got limited time on the show, but we're going to grind everything that we can out in terms of, well, let's say everything we can kind of try to cram to the table with this Leaf team. As like I said, everyone's talking about what's next year going to bring and all that stuff already. And you got the Lou Lamoriello question. You got the James Van Riemsdyk question. And Tyler Bozak. You got the Austin Matthews contract talk that you got to discuss. Mitch Marner. You got all these things that are going to come to the table. And, hey, I'm all to see what comes out of all this and see how the Leafs do come out of it in terms of all these different signings and whatnot. But sticking with the game is what I still want to focus on here. And there's a lot of points in that hockey game. And we'll bring out different points at once. And the most obvious point to bring out is somebody named Jake Gardiner. Justin, I've sat with you in an interview with our good friend Joe Bowen, who's a friend and a listener of the show, and I'm sure he's going to listen to this and roll his eyes at me saying how we've had this discussion, how Jake Gardiner was one of the best plus-minuses on the team last year, and this year, he was still solid offensively and whatnot, but he had a horrible game yesterday. Okay, and a lot of the stuff that's been said with him on Twitter, I don't appreciate that, to be honest. People think it's comical and funny, but with all this tragedy that's going on in Toronto and all these hockey tragedies that are going on, you don't want to wish these harsh things on somebody. We had somebody say Jake Gardiner should hang themselves on Twitter. You know what? I understand people are thinking they're funny and how bad he played and whatnot, but you know what? That's not funny. In my opinion, that's not cool. That's not appropriate. I understand the odd chirps about, oh my God, where were you tonight? What were you thinking? Why were you such a bum tonight? You want to say those certain things, that's fine. Jake Gardner, like you said, Justin, he was trying to do too much. I know you're going to get into that last time we saw that, but him and Nikita Zaitsev, I've said all year how Jake Gardner is not a fit on that Toronto blue line. I don't think he is unless you're going to put a stud defenseman with him. Nikita Zaitsev, where the heck have you been all year, let alone last night? Okay, I don't know if he left his brain back in Russia before he came back over this year, but the guy was an absolute disappearing act all season. Austin Matthews, the guy's in his second year. He couldn't handle that type of series against the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins shunned him out. The Boston Bruins played Austin Matthews well. Where in the season, the Boston Bruins weren't covering that. Austin Matthews more exposed in the season. He had his office on that side more exposed. The Bruins watched game tape. They knew how to shut him down, and they shut him down in a smart way. Where was Matthews all series? The only player that I noticed on Toronto in this 7-game series was Kasperi Kapanen and Frederik Andersen in those home games. Other than that, without Kasperi Kapanen and hard work, I feel Thomas Plekanec has some good games and Freddie Andersen, there wouldn't have been 7 games, in my opinion, I feel.
What's a common theme with the two guys you just named right there?
Hard work.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They had to work to earn their keep in the roster. Who's another guy that played...
Besides Anderson, he's already in the rub.
I gotta censor myself there. But who's another guy that just played his butt off through the playoffs here, who got absolutely manhandled on the boards by Chara, every shift. Got demoted to the 4th line in October, played on the 3rd line in November, had to work his way back into Babcock's good books, and then led the team in scoring in the second half of the season.
Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
Mitch Marner.
So
there's a lot of guys I forgot about those, but those big standouts.
But when the coach makes you work to earn your keep, these players have performed. Austin Matthews, and don't get me wrong, does he deserve top line minutes? 100%.
He's our top guy.
But does he need have to have someone around to push him? Probably. Like that's what I learned here, is that and same goes for Frederik Andersen. As much as your heart's about to break, get ready for it. As much as Curtis McElhinney has been a backbone for Frederik Andersen, this is kind of what we need to do to make the next step. We got to rip the Band-Aids off. We got to get rid of the comfort blankets. So Curtis McElhinney's got to go. Garrett Sparks, Calvin Pickard's got to come up, and there's going to be a competition. Not a competition for the starting spot, but a competition for starts. Anderson has to have someone on his heels a little bit to let him know that, you're going to have a 6-goal game. Well, guess what? You're not playing the next game. Figure it out. You need to have some of that hard stuff going on. Anderson performed with Gibson chomping on his heels in Anaheim, and then Anaheim had to make a financial choice and decide which goalie they wanted. It wasn't they got rid of him because he was bad. They had to make a choice. Anderson plays well with competition. So maybe it's safe to say that doing that next year helps Anderson's confidence a little bit. I think McElhinney was good to keep him sane with this team, with this young team the last 2 years. Because, and I feel like, coming in as a goaltender on a team this young, that can be tough. Especially because you didn't know what the Leafs were going to do until Matthews scored, 4 goals in Ottawa Game 1 last year. But, you didn't really know. And then a guy like McElhinney came in midway through that first season with Matthews and leveled it out, steadied everything. Maybe Matthews needs a skilled guy to push him. And you know where I'm going with this. You know who I'm talking about. And it's not going to come until after July 1st.
And here's the thing. I want you to say who you think the guy is, but the big thing, I must stand corrected here. Kapanen, Marner, and Anderson are the guys that stood out to me in the series. And Anderson only when he stole the games for us. Games that he wasn't on, he wasn't on. Marner and Kapanen were the 2 hardest workers on that team in this series. And Nylander, Johansson, and Plekanec were very impressive together, I must say. There's a lot of bright spots in this series. But the thing that concerns me the most, each game I felt there was, I said one guy, I must stand corrected, 2 guys that worked hard every night. Kapanen and Marner. Those are the guys that worked hard every night. I got to give kudos, a little notable tag to Andreas Johansson as well, who earned himself in that lineup. So, and getting to Patrick Marleau, the guy came out on fire in game in Game 6 and in Game 7 is when Patrick Marleau was on fire, and yesterday he was getting to the net, and that's where he was effective. And he was not invisible all series. He wasn't the stud standout, but nor is he really supposed to be. He's supposed to be that pivotal point for the young guys to handle that adversity, and he's supposed to get those goals, crash the net, and do that job. JVR at his office, he found some sweet spots this series there, but Boston shut that out. But the players, like I said, that really stuck out to me this series were Kapanen and Marner. Those were their two best players. Anderson, kudos to you in terms of getting us to Game 7 and the games that you actually stole, but the games that we lost, you did not show up. And little notable shout-outs to Marleau and Pekanitz as well, having very good series, and Andreas Johansson. Those are the guys I could give kudos to some games, but a full 7-game series, my thumbs up is to Kapanen, man, and Marner. Those are the two guys. And somebody, Brad, I'm going to go over to you. Jake Gardiner. Like I said on the top, I don't believe this guy is a fit in Toronto. I'm sorry, this is a guy I feel that you have to trade and have to move. I feel he can attract assets from other teams, and we can move, because I think we have to step our foot in the direction of trying to get defensive defensemen in here, and Gardiner has been a liability on that back end. I'm sorry to say it. And Nikita Zaitsev, I don't know if that's a sophomore slump, because he was the definition of a sophomore slump, and the guy's not even 20-some years old. He's 26. He's my age, 27 years old this year. So this young for him is not an excuse. He's played in the KHL. He's played in Russia with men. Okay, he came over with a little bit of an advantage. Where Marner came out of the OHL to play, and he was going up against Zdeno Chara and taking hits from him. Where Zaitsev would be scarce of hits, would give the puck away and hear footsteps. Literally hot potato on that back end this whole entire playoffs. And Brad, Jake Gardiner, the game yesterday, he was exposed yesterday. And that goal with DeBrusk, he actually did what he could there. Jake Gardiner knocking him down and pushing him in. I don't claim that that's his fault on that goal. I feel that Anderson should have had that save, to be honest with you. But all in all in that game, Gardiner out of position out of the front of the net, trying to do too much. And all season, he hasn't been the Jake Gardiner that we saw in the 2013 playoffs, where he was actually a stud in that playoffs. Ever since then, I've said that he is a liability back there. And I'm sure that if I went one-on-one with the guy, I know he'd probably dangle me or knock me to the ice. I'm not saying I can do any better than he could. But I'm saying that when we pay that man over north of $4.5 million, I expect him to be that guy who is a top four, and that I can put on that ice against the guy's top guys, or that I know is going to get me a lot of points in the playoffs and not play stupid. And he did play foolish yesterday, and that was one of the worst games I've seen Gardiner play. And already not being a big Gardiner fan on the back end, that's coming from me saying that's one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. And I've seen him play some bad games, but that is the worst I've seen him play.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, that was, there's no way around it. That was, probably the worst possible night Jake Gardiner could have had in a playoff game ever. I kind of, and it's weird, like, I kind of look at those situations, and it's one of those things that, and I realize this is pro hockey, but, you're still in a position where you should be, as a coach. And don't get me wrong, I don't like knocking Mike Babcock. I like a lot of things he's done. But you still want to put guys in positions to succeed. We always talk about that at the junior hockey level. I don't think it's any different at the pro level. And when you look at last night with how much Jake Gardiner struggled, I mean, it's impossible to hide guys at that level. But if I'm Mike Babcock, I'm almost thinking, how do I limit his ice time to the point where he can still be a productive member of the hockey club in that game? And I mean, could you possibly have done it? Maybe not. I can't say that, you could have changed things. You could have pulled ice time from him, but, you look at Dion Phaneuf. When he was in Toronto, he was bad. But he was also put in a position where, he's a number 5 defenseman. He's a number 5D. He was playing number 2 and number 3 minutes in Toronto. It's about putting guys in a position to succeed, and for me, as bad as Jake Gardiner was last night, I have a hard time. And I mean, I get that he's, he was a guy that had a major impact on that game. But was he -5? But was he really, like, if you limit his ice time, do you put, if you sit him on the bench for a period and a half, then you're stuck playing 5 defensemen.
And they're not that deep on the back end anyways.
So you're putting yourself in a tough position that way as well, right? So, like, for Toronto, that game last night is a no-win situation because you leave Jake Gardiner on the ice and he's getting lit up. But you leave him on the bench and you're in a position where, what do you do with all of a sudden if you pull him, what do you do with Nikita Zaitsev?
Like, you sit him too.
And then that's the problem. Then you're down to 4D in a game that you're in a game 7. You're in a game that you're already struggling, right? So, I get shortening the bench, but I mean, in that position, it's really hard to do, and there's no way to anticipate that Jake Gardner's going to have that bad a night last night. Like, I look at Jake Gardiner, and is he a fit in Toronto? Maybe not. I won't sit here and argue that because, he might not be a good fit in Toronto. But, for me, I mean, he wasn't the only issue last night in Toronto. And I mean, it looks worse because, like you said, he was a -5 or whatever it was last night. And, it looks bad. And, for me, that was one of just a bunch of issues for the Toronto Maple Leafs in that game.
Lots. And you know what, Justin, sorry, we're going to take a quick break. When we come,
Let me get something out of it.
we're not done with the Jake Gardiner topic. I'm going to just get you to hold your thought. We got more Leafs chat to talk about. I'm getting the buzz to get some commercials in. As you know, we went a little long on that part. We are going to continue this portion, fellas. We're going to take a quick break. When we hear back from our sponsors, when we come back, we're going to continue this topic about the Leafs, Jake Gardiner, and the players in general, and then we still have our multiple choice segment. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on The Game Sports Show.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional home to the Game Sports Show, Canadian franchise Boston Pizza. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, located on 601 Great Northern Road, Sault Ste. Marie. Come in and join Boston Pizza for its numerous specials that are offered. After 9 p.m. daily, come in to Boston Pizza for $9 schooners, $4 rail drinks, and delicious food. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, you're among friends.
Thank you for tuning in to the Game Sports Show, broadcasting Thursday nights from Boston Pizza in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and online at thegamesportshow.podbean.com. I hope you're enjoying the broadcast. Now, if you want to hear more of the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national talk show involving the world of sports, I encourage you to visit our website, thegamesportshow.com. There you can hear a couple other broadcasts of the Game Sports Show. Monday nights, we do the game from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sioux, Michigan, 6 to 7 o'clock on the radio. WUPN, Eagle 95.1 locally or online at radioeaglesioux.com. Now, the full 2-hour show can be heard on the podcast page of the game at thegamesportshow.podbean.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel. Just look for Scott Nason. In that one, as yours truly, along with Dave McKeag and our weekly contributors, Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports, along with EJ Russell on the Team Wireless Hot Seat. We focus on local, regional, and national sports, including high school basketball and hockey, junior hockey, Laker athletics, and the Detroit sports scene. And Mr. Electric Avenue Dave McKeag also broadcasts a show on Wednesday night from Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sioux, Ontario, along with his regular contributors Jamie Antonello, Justin Heichel, and Dane Hantro. They focus on football with their In the Pocket segment, talking about the NFL along with basketball and the NBA, and other sports including tennis, golf, soccer, and the WWE. Once again, you can hear all 3 versions of the game at our website, thegamesportshow.com, or our podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look for the Scott Nason channel. And thank you for listening, and keep it locked here to the game for all your local, regional, and national sports talk that you just can't get enough of.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank a list of additional sponsors. North Shore Sports and Auto, new location located on 647 McDonald Avenue, Sault Ste. Marie. A family-owned and operated business with doing business in Sault Ste. Marie for over 10 years. Loads of products available for your enjoyment for all seasons. North Shore Sports and Auto, we understand the importance of quality service and products, and we work hard to ensure that all customers have a positive experience before and after each and every sale. North Shore Sports and Auto, meeting all of your new and pre-owned equipment needs. Special thanks to Salon. The Salon, located on 589 2nd Line East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Mike Cuglietta. Book your appointment today at 705-941-9191 or via online at https://thesalonsoo.com.
The salon, making the Soo beautiful, one haircut at a time. As well as a shout out to the Soo Pee Wee Pro Shop. The Soo Pee Wee Pro Shop, located inside the Community First Credit Union Soo Pee Wee Arena on 285 Northern Avenue East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Jeremy Paquin and ran by Larry Monroe. Soo Pee Wee Pro Shop, for over 40 years, meet all of your skate sharpening, skate repair, and hockey needs. Also to Discover the Canvas. Discover the Canvas, located on 317 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. A beautiful, new renovated building owned and operated by expert artist and Sioux native Katrina Thibodeau. Katrina taking her talents of the ink in Sault Ste. Marie and truly creating the best and most realistic art locally. Call Katrina today at 705-450-8099 or email her at discoverthecanvas@gmail.com to book your tattoo or consultation today.
Hi, this is Paul Maurice from the Winnipeg Jets, and you're listening to the Game Sports Show.
Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. It's yours truly, David McKeag, live at Boston Pizza Sault Ste. Marie alongside Justin Heichel and Brad Kuchmilio as we've been all night. And we're having a little bit of a longer show tonight. We got the approval from the Big Cheeses as we had a extremely short show last week, and we have lots to talk about in general this week and the whole whack of things. And we're going to continue where we left off before we went to the break with the Jake Gardner discussion. I know Justin had lots to add, and we have more points to add with the Toronto Maple Leafs here. Justin, I know you had points to jump in with Jake Gardner. I know you're itching over there. I know you wanted to cut on in there, so I'm going to give you the floor.
So, I mean, I don't know. This is a real scattered thought train here. But, I mean, to touch on the shortening the bench conversation, I mean, Jake Gardner was averaging, I think, 25 minutes a game through the playoffs. So, I mean, what other guy are you going to put out there for that amount of ice time? Here's my point. When you know as a coach where that game is going, because everyone at this table had the same gut feeling I did halfway through or at the end of the second period last night, where you knew something wasn't right. You knew it wasn't going to go good. Are you going to put your 21-year-old budding defenseman out there to have his confidence and his psyche shattered? Or are you going to leave Jake Gardner out there who you know can handle it?
Can Jake handle it, though?
What other player on that roster in the third period tried to physically take the team, put it on its back, and do something?
Riley. He thinks he's Drew Doughty.
I didn't see any of that. I saw two players on the whole Leafs roster make end-to-end rushes with the puck yesterday, and Gardner's one of them. Yeah. Gardner's willing to carry that puck in. He's willing to try and make the plays. Does he do it too much sometimes? 100%. But I would rather have a player on my roster whose downfall is that they try to do too much versus them being lazy. And you know what? Like, we have two very different issues with defensemen. We have an entire roster, defensive roster, full of guys in the $4 million price range. And now you talk about that like $4 million is a big deal in the NHL. It was 4 years ago. It's not now. We're in the age of the NHL where $15 million contracts are a thing. You're having a guy who's playing 25 minutes a game, who, aside from one really bad playoff game, logs 25 minutes a game on average for $4 million in today's NHL. There's going to be 30 teams that put their hands up and say, okay, we'll take them. Or what the Leafs do is take that experience, channel that raw emotion, and with the two A's that we're losing out of the locker room this offseason, give him one. See what he does with it. What do you have to lose? You already have him on the roster. You're already paying him. He's been through 3 of these disasters in the playoffs. If someone's going to come through, you know what I mean, and try and help these guys out and push them to the next round, it's going to be someone who's been around on this team to go through this. It's not going to be a veteran you're going to bring in to build this veteran presence. It's not going to be, someone to give you the... sometimes you just need that raw emotion to help push you over the hump. There's talent and there's emotion in sports, and that's in circumstance as far as I'm concerned, and a little luck, but you need that raw emotion and combined with some talent to make stuff happen. And Jake Gardner's got talent. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. maybe he's got a little too much forward in him to play defense. But you know what? I don't think that's a bad thing. That's I don't know. That's my defensive jinx.
See, the thing is, I think going into the offseason, we're going to start pushing toward that direction. You got Ryan McDonough, Chris Tanev, guys that are available. I feel if you can move Jake Gardner, that's a contract you might have the chance to move. You can't move Nikita Zaitsev. No one's taking 4.5 for 6 years.
You can afford it.
Yeah, you can afford it. But I feel like what they need on that decor is not just that leadership. They need a defensive defenseman who's smart in that back end. And I'm not even looking at Ryan McDonough. That's a typical Leaf fan comment. I'm looking at Chris Tanev from Vancouver. I like that fit with Chris Tanev. I think that'd be a decent fit. And Travis Dermott, whom I think was their best defenseman in the playoffs. I'm going to give a shout out. Morgan Riley did try. Zaitsev and Gardner were exposed that entire playoffs. Jake Gardner had, like I said, the worst game I've ever seen out of him last night. So did Zaitsev, though. I didn't think those guys should have been playing together. I feel Babcock, instead of benching him, could have split them up. Maybe put Zaitsev with Travis Dermott, someone who's having a hot game, and you put Polak with Gardner, and you limit their ice time. Polak, who is not the best of all defensemen in the National Hockey League, but he actually played a decent game last night in terms of blocking shots, in terms of coming out and hitting and being physical.
He didn't have a bad playoff game.
He did not. Roman Polak did not have a bad game in the playoffs.
$1 million a year. I honestly think he returns.
There's a chance. 7th defenseman in my opinion, but he also got the Russian who's coming over, Igor Ozhenikayev. Butchered that last name, but he's coming over from Russia. He is actually. It did not work well with Zaitsev. This guy's bigger. This guy's more stay-at-home, where Zaitsev was always a mobile defenseman. I feel this might be a better experiment, but these are a lot of young guys coming up, and I feel Toronto going into this offseason could make moves. And he got JVR, like you said, Bozak, that are on the free agency market. And I seriously don't think you have JVR coming back. And we're going to jump into that. I don't think you see JVR coming back. I think there might be a real case of Bozak potentially coming back in terms of if they can't get a Tavares or a Thornton or another third-line center. As I'm not saying Kadri's a third-line center anymore. I'm saying he's a second-line center. Even though he played on that third line, they call it, he's their second-line center, in my opinion. And when he came back, Kadri, his impact was known. He was a force. I liked Kadri when he was playing. When he makes bonehead plays, he's useless. Okay, but he was effective. So, Brad, going with some guys that are leaving, JVR, Bozak, you got some contracts coming up. Someone whom was invisible, Austin Matthews, in the playoffs. Is that concerning going into future playoffs? Or their offseason, do you branch off and do you pursue the Ryan McDonoughs and John Tavares, or do you look at the guys like Chris Tanevs and the Rick Nashes? Let's make things interesting. JVR leaves for $6 million, right? That's cool. Let's say he's going to make $6 million. 6.5. The guy almost got 40 goals this year. He's going to ask for $5.5 to $6 million. So if that's the case, he goes somewhere else. What's Rick Nash get? 4.5? 4? Why doesn't Toronto bring in Rick Nash and bring in a good young center to play with him or something?
Because Toronto has Kapanen. Because Toronto has Janssen. Because Toronto has the Marlies. Toronto doesn't need to sign forwards. JVR is expendable. And as far as the Twitter has told me by various Bell Media and Rogers Media Sports Associated employees, Lou Lamoriello's got some decisions to make coming up in July.
If he's going to stay there.
Well, that's the nod I just made. That it's in the last hour or so, it's come out on Twitter that he's still the cheese. And if I'm him, if JVR, if they're even entertaining.
Why not Ilya Kovalchuk?
Because it doesn't. You got to let your young guys. You're still using the 2011 Brian Burke truculence Toronto Maple Leafs mentality. We're not good enough. We need all the other teams' good players. Well, we have good players. The issue is we got a logjam at forward. And so these guys aren't getting chances. Guys like JVR, guys like Bozak had more time on the ice in the playoffs than maybe they should have, and Kapanen didn't. Janssen didn't. That's the issue. Dominic Moore wasn't on the ice at all in the playoffs. A guy who's been on every team in the NHL for the most part and has had success on every one of those teams in the playoffs. A guy that maybe could have told people a thing or two about playing through adversity, the people that know Dominic Moore's story. That's maybe having him with those guys would have been good. But JVR makes sense at $3.5 million. That's the contract you offer him. It's a low ball, but buy into the Leafs mentality. We want to win. If you want to come back, that's the price. Leo Komarov makes sense at
$6. He's easily getting $6.
Yeah, okay, and good. Another team can have a great time with him scoring 30 goals in the garbage end back half of the season. Score 30 goals when it means something. You know what I mean? He scored 30 goals, and he was goal for goal with Mitch Marner.
He's getting a raise.
So which guy do you need?
Mitch Marner.
Which guy's cheaper? You take Mitch Marner. It's a business decision. Leo Komarov makes sense coming back at $1 million. But he won't come back because they're going to go somewhere else to chase the money. If I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this might get some ludicrous looks here too.
I'm already looking at you about the JVR.
Oh, I know. Well, the way Thomas Plekanec played in the playoffs, I think he's worth the Leo Komarov money. He did something for you. And the fact that what the Leafs have to sell to him is that the Montreal Canadiens are a tire fire. What are you going to go back there for? You're a free agent. Come here. You finally turned it up. We got something going. Come back. You're that priced appropriately center that we need to move forward.
Strong points. The only thing I disagree is JVR $3.5 million. That definitely won't happen.
He definitely needs more than that money.
Yeah.
You have to price him so he knows.
Brad, you've been sitting here observing different comments from different ends, and this is the unusual time where Justin and I disagree on things in terms of Jake Gardiner. How I don't think he's a fit. No, you don't mind him in terms of giving him an opportunity. I don't. We've always seen a different path with that, but. Just all in general with Jake going into next year, what should Toronto do? Status quo, or do they make moves? Do they do something?
You know what? You make moves, but they have to be the right ones. Like, I admittedly, like, I look at this organization, and people just seem so out there. We gotta get John Tavares. We got it. Like. Every single big name, every single year that goes on the market, he's going to Toronto. No. The Red Wings tried that. It doesn't work that well. The Red Wings got lucky that they brought in the right guys. That's not, like, you can't go out and just bring in every single big name that's on the market. First of all, it's not going to work in a salary cap system anyway. Because let's face it, if you bring John Tavares in, you know how little cap room you're going to have to fill out the rest of your roster? Because let's face it, John Tavares is going to command massive money.
Massive.
You know? And, like, I get why people would be so excited to bring him in. Like, he's an unbelievable talent. But sometimes they're not the right fit. Like, it's that simple. The Detroit Red Wings made so many mistakes trying to bring in big-name guys till they finally figured it out that you don't necessarily need to bring in every superstar. You know, at some point, you got to look at and target certain players. You've got to target, you know, player X because, not because he's a big-name player. You got to target player X because he's a fit in your system. You know, I mean, everyone talks about, like, to look back at junior hockey. You know, everyone talks about the Soo Greyhounds and, you know, why do they take small forwards? They take small forwards because small forwards fit their system to a T. The Toronto Maple Leafs have to decide exactly what their system is, and if that's what it's going to be, that's when you start looking at certain players and saying, okay, these are the guys we're going to target. They're not the big-name guys, but these are the guys we're going to target because they work in our system. It's no different than Moneyball in the major leagues. The Oakland Athletics, for years, would go out and get guys just because they fit their system and they could get a good deal on them. You know what? As much as the Oakland never won a World Series, you know what? They had some pretty darn good ball clubs. You know, and if I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm almost looking at it that way a little bit, where you go in and you target certain guys because they're going to fit what you want to do, because they're going to fit certain systems, not just because they're a big-name player.
You know, I like those points for sure. Getting the right guys. And obviously, Brad, just to say quick to get to those, decor is one thing they have to address for sure. And secondly, is Austin Matthews' disappearance of sorts in this first round an issue?
Not at all. Like, that's not even, like, that's, for me, that's a hard no. Like, that's not, like,
That's not a thing.
you know, yeah, for me, that's just people getting excited over, you know, basically a kid playing in the NHL playoffs. Like, let's face it, when I was Austin Matthews' age, I probably wouldn't do very well in the NHL playoffs either, even if I had his amount of skill. You know what? Like, he's in a position where he's going to be a very good performer for them in the playoffs down the road. Chalk this up to experience for him. It's that simple.
You definitely agree on the D point, though. That's where they need to focus on this year. Is that fair enough? And with the subtractions of JVR and Bozak, do they need to worry about adding to that, or is it just D?
You know what? I mean, again, you bring in the right guys. I mean, if it's a matter like I don't know that they have to. You know, let's face it, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, this is a team that's still in the process of, you know, basically a massive rebuild.
Shanahan's ahead of the system.
You know, and I mean, they're in a position where guys are getting experience. And you know what? For me, if I was a Leaf fan, I wouldn't be that disappointed if they didn't make major moves this summer. As long as they're bringing in the right guys, hey, you know what? I'm okay with Freddie Anderson in goal. I'm okay with their blue line. Like, for the most part, yeah, it's, you know, do they need work? Absolutely. But you know what? At the end of the day, a full revamp and bringing in a whole ton of guys might not necessarily do the trick either. It might set you back. You know, where at least you've got guys in place that are going through this, that have gone through the disappointment of Game 7 losses, that went through the disappointment of that Washington series. You know what? You build off that. And if you go revamp your roster just for the sake of, we blew a lead in Game 7 and lost, well, you're going to probably set yourself back, and you could potentially set yourself back 3 or 4 years. And let's face it, I can't imagine very many Leaf fans would want to go back to that.
No, definitely not. Good points all around, fellas. Just want to get your final thoughts on the movement potentially this offseason before we go to our multiple choice segment, before we close out our show.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to lose some guys that we've grown to, I don't want to say love, because I think that's a big word. So we'll say like the LUV love, like the text message low-end version of it. But I mean, like, losing guys like Bozak, Van Riemsdyk, Leo Komarov, I mean, they're kind of the last connection to the 2013 collapse Leafs. I know I'm notably leaving Jake Gardiner and Morgan Riley and Nazem Kadri out of there. But that being said, I think we need to give some guys that have patiently waited in the press box a chance. You know, most notably to me, a guy who hasn't got his fair shot, I think, this year is Josh Levo. Again, most notably, I think someone who's a big power forward type player that could potentially help out a top line centerman. I'm going to keep beating that drum till it happens, by the way. But all in all, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I like to keep that, you know, pipe dream going that we're going to do something big and crazy, but like Brad says, it doesn't make sense.
Definitely start to getting on the realm of getting the right guys. I want that. I'd love to see number 91. Wow, almost said 19. I'm thinking Steve Eisman, tell me for a second. But 91. I'm thinking of Don Tavares. I'd love to see that. Big Donna. I'd love to see that. But you know what? I think the right fits would be like a Chris Tanev, these different guys, these right fits that are the Mark Stone type of the worlds that are the good fits on the back end.
Look what Hainsey did for us this year.
Absolutely. Good point. Prime point.
Playing 75 minutes a game in the playoffs. Like,
literally. And fellas, I'm also getting word too that we're going to have the lottery draft announced in the second intermission of this game. So we're going to have that announced for the second intermission coming up just very shortly as Vegas is up 5-0 in the conclusion of the second period. So and can potentially have a very good draft pick as well with a lot of moves that they have made. So we're going to have the multiple choice segment here along with, at the conclusion of the show, announcing the NHL entry draft winner, the lottery draft winner, and just I'll briefly go through the top 10 picks, potentially the entirety of the draft as well before we conclude the show if we have enough time. So, fellas, we're going to jump into our multiple choice segment before we get to that because it should be perfect timing before when that comes on the television here at Boston Pizza Sault Ste. Marie, as it's Dave McKeag alongside Brad Cochamilio. And we're going to go with the first question
on a multiple choice segment. We didn't have a multiple choice segment last week, as yours truly had to leave, and I actually lost in the finals.
You're pretty quiet about that tonight. I figured it didn't go well.
2 games we lost in a row, unfortunately, for the second straight year. And the Cootsees Open A Division Iceman, the little announcement, is actually folding, and we are going to be in the Mayor's Open next year with myself, Brett Nasby, Gravelines, Rowe, Ryan Venderman. We're all making a team in the Open Division, sponsored by the Game Sports Show. The TGSS Icemen are hitting the ice in the Mayor's Cup. And if you don't know what TGSS stands for, Justin, there you go. Okay, he said, I'm just making sure your brain's on. Is your brain on? No, just kidding. Yeah.
Got to do a shout out to our buddy.
He did eat your buddy Tree. They won the other Open Division. Yeah, they won that. Congratulations out to Tree, someone who's been a guest on this show as well. Definitely like to get his leaf input today. That would have been fun to have. But however, the show that we have must go on here, and the little friendly announcement that the Game Sports Show will be doing. Sponsorships next year through the Pee Wee. There is even mutters about the show sponsoring a Pee Wee team next year. When all that is official, we'll make all that official that we are going to make in our plans that we're going to have the TGSS Iceman hit the ice in the Mayor's Open, and we're also going to have it potentially hitting in the Sioux Minor realms and throughout the hockey boards. And with our pictures going up around town next week and our merchandise selling, Brad, that's exciting stuff.
We're getting pretty popular. It's a scary thought.
It is kind of scary how that's also getting kind of popular. But as I was saying, it's going to be exciting to get involved in the Sioux community in terms of potentially getting a Sioux Pee Wee hockey team sponsored, and also having a team in the Mayor's Cup in our Open, the TGSS Icemen, hitting the ice on that end. But fellas, the show is continuing here. We have the multiple choice segment to get to. A little bit off track, but we're allowed to do that. Question. And this all started before we jump into this about me losing my men's league final. Just saying. Had to say that one more time. It's been a losing week all around. First question that was brought in by Sioux Today's own, the Game Sports Show's own, local celebrities' own, Brad Cocciamelio. Question 1 of the multiple choice segment is Las Vegas for real, and are you sold? Wow, that is a question that surprised me, Brad, because I'm going to go first. I'm going to say, yes, I'm sold. Yes, they're for real, and they're in the second round of the playoffs and won their division, and that's all I'm going to leave it at, as they have a 5-0 lead on the San Jose Sharks going into the second intermission. Is that pretty summed? Is that good? That was good? I think my mom would be proud of that, how I kept it simple there. Justin?
I'm sold. I mean, I haven't watched hockey this fast and this entertaining in a very long time. So, I mean, I'm on the Vegas bandwagon. That's for sure.
Oh, that's coming from a Leaf fan. I thought you were on the Jets bandwagon. Just kidding. Brad, I want to get your take because you brought this question up on the multiple choice for a reason. So tell me, my friend, what's your answer and your brief reason?
This is going to be weird, but are they for real? No. But am I sold? Maybe. Because this is a team that they sold me as a quality organization during the regular season, without a doubt. But I'm not completely sold on whether or not this team's going to be a Stanley Cup champion. I don't feel, for me, it's a hard no. They don't win the Cup this year. I'm that confident, but this is a team that's went out and got the job done. And, of course, as we say that, we're watching James Neal celebrate a goal that's being reviewed as we speak. But, I mean, this is an organization that's done an absolutely amazing job.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they're good enough to win a cup yet. But they're probably close. But I really don't feel like this is a cup champion.
Let's not forget, a lot of these players are on one-year contracts and are free agents next year. Key words being James Neal and David Perron there. As like Brad just said, they're coming to the conclusion of the second period with 4 seconds left. We're going to have a little review if Las Vegas is going to be up 6-0 going into the second intermission. So Las Vegas, though, good points. Are they for real, not sold? What do you think out there? Las Vegas, Sioux's own Colin Miller is definitely sold on the system, as he is looking forward on moving on in the Stanley Cup playoffs potentially here, as he says he's going to take it game by game, night by night, and Las Vegas is not going down without a fight. I added that quote. I added that line. All Colin said was that he is excited to what has gone on this year and how Vegas has done well, and he's excited for this playoff run. I just added that rhyme for absolutely no reason. Second question. Assuming the Leafs make a move this summer. This is coming from Soo's own, former OLG employee.
Pride of the West End.
Pride of the West End. The best hairline in the business.
Wires is pretty good.
Pretty good. I was thinking Darren Pang. Assuming the Leafs make a move this summer, Justin Heichel's question. A, do they get Drew Doughty in a trade, not a free agency move? B, do they sign John Tavares? Or C, that cough wasn't on purpose, by the way. And that's C, other. A rare other in the multiple choice segment. And Brad, I'm going to go to you. And the floor is yours, my friend.
You know what? I'm gonna go other. I'm gonna take the other. I like I said earlier, I don't know that this is a team that needs to go out after a massive name right now. I think they're an organization that probably would stand to just basically keep it simple this summer. Go after guys that fit the system. I don't think they need to go after the big names.
That's what I'm hearing. And Justin, I'll go first. I want you to conclude. As when you said that, Brad, the Las Vegas Golden Knight goal was disallowed, so it's still 5-0 in Las Vegas. Definitely a big lead still there. And the second intermission is going to be commencing in just 2 seconds. So, Justin, I'm going to answer your question here. I'm going to point at you and look at you here and tell you what I think here, because we just had a nice Leaf discussion here, and what we thought. I'm going to go with other. I'm going on the other train because we don't get too many others here on this multiple choice segment. And I'm saying other because I'm saying they got to keep it simple and not go off the board. As much as I want John Tavares' jersey or Ryan McDonough's jersey getting etched or Drew Doughty making a trade for or even going after Erik Karlsson, let's get real. Those are absolute moves that it would be deeming on the salary cap as Matthews' contract's around the corner. Mitch Marner. You got Nylander's contract kicking in. You got, there's JVR and Bozak leaving, which does open up approximately, I think it's 9.75 in room. And then you also have Pekanic's contract going out the door as well, which opens up $3 million that they carried over from this year. So you have a lot of contract space that is being moved and up. So they got a lot of free space, but I want them to use that space towards Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, locking up the core guys. I want them to use this and look at Chris Tanev, a guy that can get $4.5 a year at a very reasonable rate. That's as much as Bozak was making right now. I want them to look at spending that other $4.5 to $5.2 that they had for JVR on another winger and a centerman combined. I want them to bring in the right guys, and I want them to bring in the guys that are going to fit the system, but I want them to focus on adding 2 top 4 defensemen this year. I don't want them going after McDonough or Drew Doughty. Drew Doughty's a free agent next year. We can worry about that big dog next year. I feel like getting a Chris Tanev and making a move to bring another top 4 defenseman and having that complement with Dermott and maybe hopefully Zaitsev comes back with a force. Maybe that will be good. Then you focus on making the tweaks up front, little tweaks. So you're adding 2 or 3D. You might be adding a backup goalie or keeping Calvin Pickard in the mix and adding 2 forwards. So 5 to 6 moves for the summer that aren't earth-shattering salary cap moves, and I'll be happy with that just to get the right guys in the system to make it a 2nd to 3rd round playoff run for sure next year instead of a first-round exit. Justin, to your question and answer. The question is, are the Leafs going to make a move? Doughty, Tavares, or other?
I mean, I'm all over the Drew Doughty train on this one, only because he's been, number one, flirting with this for years. Oh, yeah. Absolutely years. I mean, I'll even flash back to a little tidbit back in the summer of 2011, I think. That was a interesting one. Down in London, partying with some of my buddies, saw Drew Doughty at the bar, went up to him and told him he got traded to the Leafs. I mean, there was an initial panic and then said you were joking, and we went about our lives where I'm here and he's in the NHL. But the Drew Doughty thing is where it makes sense to me. The Leafs are log-jammed with a roster full of number 2 through 7 defensemen, but they don't have that stud. You need a stud. They don't need a number 2. They don't need a number 3. They don't need a number 4 because they got a bunch of those. That'll sort itself out the entire year and probably be a revolving door as far as where those positions slot in. But Patrick Marleau got James Van Riemsdyk's money for this year. Trading some draft picks to a cap-crunched LA team and maybe a prospect, maybe someone from the Marlies,
Maybe a roster guy.
Maybe a roster guy, because it's going to take a lot to pry Drew Doughty out of there. Let's be factually honest with this. Is you're not going to just give them some draft picks and nobody, and Drew Doughty's going to appear in your roster. I'm not every other Toronto Maple Leafs fan that thinks that that's how it works. You're probably losing a relatively talented player. Whether that opens you up for maybe a sign and trade with one of these impending free agents, I don't know.
They do need a ring. Wow.
But
They need a leading scoring ringer.
this still, in bringing on Drew Doughty this year, does not cap jam you for next year, because Marlowe's gone. And next year is when you have to pay Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews would be ill in the head to renegotiate his contract out of his entry-level deal this year. Why, after that playoff series, would you want to negotiate a contract a year ahead of time? All right? I really do think that Marner's play helped elevate whatever Nylander gets paid.
5.5?
I think Marner and Nylander both get 6. That's what it is. 6 on the nose. 6 million, 4 years. That's what I think the contract offer is to both of them. And then I think you see Matthews next year maybe at 10. He's not going to get McDavid money off the hop.
So
He's
you
not.
agree with me on 10 now. No one remember when Dave said 12, 13?
But he has to bring himself down to that value. At the point where we had that conversation, he wasn't playing at a $10 million a season value. And Connor McDavid wasn't playing at a Connor McDavid value. You know what I mean? The roles are reversed. It's like stocks. It's like the financial market. These players play above, below their value throughout the season. You just have to hope that they had more games above than below. And a guy like Austin Matthews, you got to really look at these 3 years to kind of hone in his value and hope that you don't shoot yourself in the foot going forward, i.e. the Zaitsev contract.
I like when you have the other in there, but you went with the Drew Doughty. I like that. I think that'd be a very interesting trade. You bring up a good concept about sign and trade, potentially if JVR's in that or what's going on. So definitely some good points there. What is your take? What Toronto's going to do, as you can tell, for this total of 70 minutes between these last two segments, at least 50-plus minutes of it have been on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So
Get it out of my system.
you had to definitely get it out of your system to discuss. So just going to say right now, fellas, going to be a definite interesting offseason for Toronto, just the NHL in general. The last question here. How will the NHL fix the consistency of goaltender interference calls and reviews? I wonder who made that question. Probably the only one who decided he didn't have a question yet. That would be me. And I brought this question up to Joe Bowen, brought this question up to Paul Maurice off air, of course. I brought this question up to numerous individuals. And the options of answer are A, new rule that indicates situational circumstances, where that means a goalie is standing, does it depends, or what's the play of the game, that sort of thing. Option B, enhanced video replays, more elevated plays that gives different angles. That's what that means. Or option C, bring back the crease rule, and at any point of contact, the whistle blows and the play is blown dead. And that follows a lot of the European kind of structure where they don't have a lot of issues in terms of the goaltender interference. So Justin, I'm going to you first. You ended the last topic, going to this one. Goaltender interference calls reviews, new rule that indicates situational circumstances, enhanced video, or bring back the crease rule and blow the whistle at any point of contact.
I mean, one of the things I want to see with just even the reviews in general is take out the slow motion. Watch everything in game speed. If you can't make the decision in game speed, then you couldn't make the decision in the first place. You know what? That's one of the things that plagues a lot of the sports, not just hockey, not just it's across the board, is this video replay. It's an over-analysis of what's going on in the game. Some of this video replay stuff, you open yourself up for far more damage than you do good when you do this 20-minute review of what's going on. Because then you give everyone at home a chance to critique it, see it from 27 different views, generate all these opinions, and you're roasted. Watch the play at game speed. If you can make a judgment call at game speed, then make the call. Otherwise, don't do it. That's where I'm at as far as any of these video reviews go. As far as the goaltender interference goes, these goalies should maybe stand up for themselves a little more. That being a thing too, protect your crease. Because there was a point in time, i.e. Ron Hextall, where people just weren't going in there because they were going to get the business. If you don't want the business, don't go in there.
I like that. And Brad, if it's okay with you, I'll go second. On my question, I'll let you finish it off before we conclude our show afterwards with that. I'm going to go out there and say that I like A. And Justin, so you went with option.
I was kind of on my own there.
You got to get me a letter. I'm getting told you got to give me a letter. A, B, or C. You got to give me a letter.
I guess C.
Going with C. Okay. Justin's got C. I'm going to go with, I'll start off the hop by saying option A. I want a new rule that indicates the situational circumstances. That if a goalie comes out of that crease and he's playing, he's in the middle of the play, he's getting involved, he's coming out of his house, he's coming out of his zone. That if you're getting contacted out there and you're getting in the play, sucks to be you. I'm sorry, you're now involved in the game. You got your area where nobody can touch you, no one can play you. I guess that also almost touches to C, where you bring back that crease rule at any point of contact. But I like when skates are in the crease. I like when they battle. That's fine as long as you're not interfering with the goaltender. But if I do this, they're goalie, and I just gave Justin a little nudge, and he started hitting them, the ref's blowing the whistle. Anyways, that's goaltender interference as it is, right? So option A would be a new rule where the goalies come out and play the puck on a high note, or they come out to play the puck. It's fair game. It's fair game, and if you get a goal where a player lift your stick and put it in, I like that. I think that's fair. But if you jam a pad, hit a goalie, or interfere with him actually stopping the puck, that's where it's an issue, and that's where it's situational. But you got to come up with a rule right away that, okay, if it comes up in this circumstance, the pad gets pushed in, this is the automatic goal. If he came out of his crease to play this, no matter what happened, if he got bumped, hey, sucks to suck. He came out and played there, that's the new rule. You got to have a set play for that.
I mean, I'm kind of butting back in here, but I think it's an okay idea. What if following C, the play's blown dead, instead of it being a penalty or anything, what if the face-off was taken back in the other team's end?
Kind of like high stick kind of like when you knock the puck down an high stick on the power play. Yeah. The face-off goes all the way down to the other end of the ice.
I like that. Those are good points. You can make it situational with those circumstances. That's why I like it. You can bring those in. So I'm going to go with option A. Brad, I'm going to slide over to you.
You know what? I'm going with A because that kind of fits probably the best and probably the way I feel about it, in the sense that, I feel like we need to give referees a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of keep the human element back in it too. Like I wish we could do that, where you kind of stop putting replays and basically not take it out of the game, but put the human element back in. Yeah. But that's another debate for another time. I feel like A is the answer. I feel like you kind of need to look at it and say, okay, certain situations you're gonna look at it and say, yeah, there's no way. If a goaltender comes out of the top of his crease, he should be fair game a little bit. Not saying it gives you fair game to go and run him over, but if there's incidental contact and the goaltender's out at the top of his crease, well, you know what? My biggest issue is in some cases you get these reviews and there's extremely minor contact and a goal gets waved off, or it doesn't affect the goaltender making a save and it still gets waved off. That's what drives me nuts the most about this rule. Give me A for this one. I mean, you need to, you kind of need to put it in that situation where, you kind of have some set guidelines to determine, what is okay and what isn't.
I like that. A little bit longer of a multiple choice segment we had here tonight, but we can do that. We didn't have one last week. And I got to apologize to the listeners. Producers are letting me know here a little bit of mistake, a misread on my part and some producers' part, that the draft lottery is actually the Saturday. There was a misread there. We thought there was going to be an announcement this second, but then after some further research and scratching our head that makes absolutely no sense, no, that is going to be Saturday. Picks 4 to 15 will be announced during the 2018 NHL Lottery Draft Show on Saturday, which is 7:30 on CBC. The top 3 selections will be revealed during the second intermission of the Western Conference second round between Vegas and the Sharks, which will be in the second game on Saturday. So let me stand corrected that I apologize if I confused anyone at the top. I know people are going to be listening to this on Friday a lot too and saying, hey, that didn't happen last night. I'm sorry if I made you Google and pull over to look and see. But no, those picks are going to be done on Saturday, so our apologies here, courtesy of the Game Sports Show, for getting you a little bit excited. And speaking of that draft, let me tell you, I'm going to go with a bold prediction. A little fun thing before we close off the show. I'm going to say that the Ottawa Senators are going to win the draft lottery. What do you two say? Brad?
You know what? The bias in me wants to see the Detroit Red Wings win the lottery. Let's face it. Yeah. We haven't won it. We haven't.
And a Swedish defenseman, no less, eh?
Nick Lidstrom.
Maybe a little Nick Lidstrom 2.0. But I mean, selfishly, I would love to see the Red Wings win it just because it speeds up the rebuild for them, and that would be absolutely massive.
Absolutely. Justin, you got Arizona, you got Montreal, you got Vancouver in there. You even got the Oilers and Hawks in there. There's a lot of chances with this draft. The Jets moved up to a bunch of spots to get Line A, but who do you think is getting this draft?
I mean, for Colorado's sake, it'd be interesting if the Oilers, Ottawa ended up with it, just because of how that shakes out. But I'm going to fire a bone off to our old buddy Dane and say that just to send the world into a rage, the Oilers are somehow going to end up with this one.
If they win that draft, I might never watch this entry draft ever again. Or I don't know, I might be... I don't know. That is so... My God. And the Ottawa Senators selecting 3 times in the first overall pick. Let me name those for you. Alexander Daigle, Brian Berard, and Chris Phillips. We know how Alexander Daigle turned out. Brian Berard ended up being a Leaf.
I've got a lot of theories on Alexander
Daigle. There's a lot of different theories, but you know what? Interesting to say. Who do you think's going to win the draft lottery? Let us know. And maybe if you guess right, maybe because we didn't have a trivia question this week, as we decided to take a break from that, if you guess right on who's going to win the NHL entry draft, maybe we'll give you a nice little prize courtesy of Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie. So, fellas, I'm getting the ring in my ear. I'm getting told we got to wrap up, and we're definitely over time this week, but we were allowed to do that this week as it's been quite the action-packed week, and much expected as Leaf news was skyrocketing from last night in terms of whom was trending on Twitter. Gardner, that was you. A lot of players and a lot of people that were trending on Twitter. I can't even say that correctly. But I got to say right now that it was a good season overall for the Maple Leafs, and I'm very happy to be a Leaf fan. And it's good to see as Dane Hancho, analyst on the show, reached out and said, hey, it sucks that you lost, but you guys are going to be a top team in the NHL for the next decade, so don't worry about it. That's one of the nicest things he's ever said about the Leafs in his life, and I'll probably never hear any more other than that. That could be worse. You could be an Oilers fan. Anyways, fellas, Brad, I want to say thanks for coming on by tonight. Next week, we'll be back here again.
Anytime. There's no other place I'd rather be in a Thursday night.
No, absolutely. And we know hopefully...
Or in this case, maybe early Friday morning, too.
In this case, with a longer show. And hopefully next week with the Hounds, hopefully they have a moving on to the OHL Championship there so we get some stuff there. And maybe see you at the game on Friday and maybe even Monday if it's Game 7. Justin, thanks for coming by. Next week, pal.
Oh, yeah. Lots of free time now. Big Toronto FC fan. So, I'll be around. Maybe even early the next couple weeks.
Yeah, you might be. My new schedule starting next week, so my schedule restarts next week with a new schedule, so I'm going to be on time next week. I promise.
Yeah.
That's it. But, fellas, I want to say thanks again for coming on by. I'm going to give a shout-out to Scott Nason, our board operator, as always tonight. I'm even going to give a shout-out to the bringer of beer, Mitch Wilson, whom did not serve our beer tonight, but he was quite the loud individual. He was the receiver of beer tonight, but it was a loud atmosphere at Boston Pizza. And good luck to all the 3-on-3 tournament participants, and to Ashlyn Wardlaw and to Lauren. She did a fantastic job. Good old, I call her Lauren Reed. I still call her that. Sorry, Ryan Lotto. But I got to give a shout out to them. They always do hard work. And to Aaron Grisdak. And obviously to Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie. I give a shout out to Sports Center Bar and Grill, North Shore Sports and Auto, The Salon, The Superior Pro Shop, Discover the Canvas, Northern Critters in Need, Big Brother, Big Sister, and Northern Signs. Also the Wicked Sister and Pingator Cleaners. Don't forget, Monday 6 to 7, myself and Scott Nason at the Wicked Sister. That'll be live on radio. That's 7 to 8, pre-recorded. Then next week, Wednesday at Sports Center Bar and Grill, myself and Jamie will be there next week discussing In the Pocket off-season edition, NBA basketball, and variety of sports with our roundtable discussion at 9:30 till 11. Then obviously here back next week at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie at 9:30 with myself, Brad, and Justin. And hopefully we'll have guests actually next week, as we have a lot of rescheduling in the past few weeks. Hopefully that they are on for next week. And keep an eye on our website. Don't forget our merchandise gets launched this week. The T-shirts, the logo gets launched this week. Pictures are going to be put up through around town. Make sure to follow us on thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Look at Scott Neeson's YouTube channel and also on the website, www.thegamesportshow.com. The trivia question will be back next week. But hey, don't forget, if you guess who's going to win the NHL draft lottery, you might get a prize courtesy of Boston Pizza for that, and you can put that on the Game Sports Show website or on the Podbean page with those comments, or reach out through our Instagram at The Game Sports Show, or my Facebook, David Jr. McKeag, or Brad Cochimilio and Justin Heichel on Facebook. Fellas, it's been great. To all you out there, it's always been a slice. Delicious Molson products. Great atmosphere here at Boston Pizza, as always. And to you, the listeners, if it wasn't for you and our extremely high trending popularity and views, much thanks to you. And to me now, going to the new catchphrase of the conclusion. Keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdown, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.